Alrighty, it looks like we do have a good majority of those that registered, so we'll go ahead and get started. So again, first of all, welcome everybody to the Preparing for Your AMA Prepay Communications webinar. My name is Mike Bowen. I'm the Manager of Implementation here at Real Green, and with me today is Matthew Gifford. He is one of our outstanding implementation specialists with a lot of familiarity with our AMA products. So he'll be helping us with any questions that come in. And again, any of those questions you have during the webinar, go ahead and submit those in the questions panel of the GoToWebinar panel you see there, and we'll get to those as we finish up the webinar today. So again, we'll be discussing a little bit of the year-end process in Service Assistant, and then we'll really more specifically focus on how we can prepare to get those AMA prepay communications sent out to your customers, allowing for them to easily prepay for those services through the Customer Assistant website, or that CAW. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll turn off our cameras just so that way we can make that view of the screen a little bit larger there. Alrighty. And the first item we want to talk about is going to be the year-end checklist in Service Assistant. So a lot of the prepay communications are really dependent on us rolling our services over from season to season. And that year-end checklist is really going to guide us through that process. So we can access that by mousing over the three-line menu on the left side of Service Assistant if we have the new navigation. If we're using that classic navigation menu, we would see the screwdriver and wrench icon here along that top edge, really towards the right there. So either way we get there, what we're going to do is head over to our utilities. And we can use the filter by name here to reduce our results just by starting to type in year, and that's going to narrow those results, or we can just scroll down to that year-end section to see all of our available options. We'll go ahead and open up that year-end checklist, and we'll just take a quick look here. Right, so the year-end checklist is going to kind of guide you, like I said, through that process of performing renewals, running some reports to gain some insight into your company for the current season, but also have those reports to run after renewals to make sure that everything was processed as you intended. Right? So this is really going to walk you through all of those different steps, help you understand what we recommend here at Real Green to go through for that year-end process. So we have some reports here. Then we get into skipping out any services that we're not going to be performing. Maybe we've reached the end of our season. We have some customers we weren't able to get to provide those services, and we would want to skip those out. So we have some utilities there. Again, and then it's, we have the ability for notes. So if you need to make notes, maybe there's some company specific items that you have, then you can store those notes here in this note section. And these are going to stay until we come in and we reset the checklist. So you'll have these notes available to you in the following season if there was something specific that came up. So really that's that process is just to give you some insight and help guide you through that year-end process, making increasing prices if necessary, renewing installment plans where applicable. So it's going to guide you through that. And prior to sending out those prepay letters, either through SA5 or AMA, you will need to complete this checklist, or if you know how to proceed without the checklist, obviously completing those necessary steps, the renewals, price increases, etc. But I do recommend that you read through the checklist entirely before running any of those year-end utilities. Maybe there's something there that you weren't aware of, or maybe there's a nice utility that can do something you were doing manually. All right, so I've mentioned it a couple of times, and really, so the renewals process and what are the impacts on my prepay email campaign? So in order to provide customers with AMA prepay emails based on their existing program or job pricing, we'll need to process those renewals to get those jobs into the next season. Renewals allows you to copy over your programs and jobs for active customers from the current or previous season into the next, eliminating the need to manually add programs or jobs to customers year over year. It will be renewed, or it will be the renewed program or jobs that will be included in that prepay email. If you missed out on our renewals webinar, please just go ahead and submit a ticket at realgreen.com/tech support for the product RGA or Real Green Academy and just request that renewals webinar, and we'll get that shared with you as well. It does take you through a lot more detail of that process of going through renewals. All right, so now that we've kind of spoke about that year-end process, what we want to talk about next is preparing Service Assistant for those email campaigns. So the first thing we're going to talk about is going to be our settings. So let's navigate over to settings again. In the new navigation, we're going to mouse over the 3 lines, select settings. In the classic navigation in SA5 here, we would go to the settings gear in that top right area. Either way, let's click on that now. And the couple of sections we're going to want to talk about is going to be service setup. So we can scroll down, or you can use that search filter there. Clicking on service setup. What we're really looking for in service setup is going to be the internet available checkbox for any special jobs that we want to use as upsells. So if we're going to take an opportunity for these AMA prepay emails to include an upsell, then we just want to make sure that we have the internet available checkbox selected here in our default information and click save. So that's something we do recommend going through really any service that you would like your customers to be able to sign up for through CAW, or any service we're going to use as an upsell, whether that's going to be a printed letter that they're going to buy on CAW, or an upsell that's going to be through the AMA prepay email communication. We want to make sure that those are set up as internet available. So a good idea to just do a quick once over through the services that you offer, or more applicably, those special jobs or upsells. Just give that a quick save. So once you're done, obviously we'll want to make any saves to any changes that we make along the way. And that's really it for the service setup. So the next area we want to talk about is going to be our program setup. And this one's going to be an important one. So we can again scroll down, or we can filter by our list here and navigate to program setup. The big item on this one is going to be the minimum rounds for CAW prepay. So this says how many rounds must the customer have in order to prepay through CAW. And so we might want to restrict that number to only customers that have half of our rounds in a program. So that way we have an opportunity to recoup some of that savings costs, or that savings that the customer has received through a prepaid discount over the course of that year. Right? We don't necessarily want to give somebody a large discount only receiving 1 round in a program. And so that's something we'll want to address and update as applicable, right? That should just be what you consider to be the minimum that a customer should be able to prepay for through the CAW. Generally, we recommend at least about half of those program rounds that will need to be in a Y status in order to prepay. But again, business need dictates everything. So you'll be able to make that decision obviously there on your own. And as before, any changes we make here, we will want to make sure that we are saving those changes. So again, just a quick once over through your different programs, making sure that we have that configured there. If these, while you're here, not a bad idea to double check if you're going to allow customers to request or add services through CAW in general, to mark those programs as internet available as well. Right. The next item under settings we're going to take a look at is going to be our AMA letter setup. So this is where we start to really get into the AMA specific focused items. So we're going to scroll all the way down through our settings, and we're looking for the AMA letter setup, which should be the last option we see here. So we'll open up that AMA letter setup. And what we're looking for specifically in here is going to be our SS_renewal emails. So there we go. So we have renewal notification 1, renewal notification 2, 3, and 4. And keep in mind, the email prepay campaign is a drip campaign that can consist of up to 4 emails going out. So that's why we have these 4 different options, and each one of those 4 email communications in that campaign can have different letter text. So we have renewal notification number 1. Again, so we have the name there. Here's going to be that letter text that's going to appear in our prepaid email that goes out to the customer. And this is going to be something that appears below their name, Again, just maybe thanking them for being a loyal customer or letting them know about those beneficial services that you're offering and renewing year over year and how they can save by prepaying for those services. One thing we do like to recommend is maybe getting a little bit more aggressive with the advertising techniques as we progress through a drip campaign. And what I mean is, maybe the first one we just talk about that a little bit more generically, a little more broadly about how they can save. And then maybe as we start to get to number 3 and number 4, we start adding in some information about the time is limited, really increasing that drive to prepay for those services to keep or to get those savings that most of the customers are really looking for. So we can get a little bit more aggressive with that. Time is moving on without them. All right, so yeah, so we have the renewal notifications. We'll want to just make sure that we have that letter text set up. And then the offer line 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are going to be used for specifically for the prepay emails through AMA. There's an option to make this the subject line of that prepay email. So what we want to do here, right, we want to be a little bit creative, a little bit crafty with that marketing approach. But what we want to avoid is anything that seems, like spam. Right? We've all received spam. I'm very confident of that. So we want to avoid anything that feels like it's going to be spam to one of our customers. So using just a single word in offer line 1 and nothing else, the word free or free offer, something like that. We've all received those. We all generally see them in our spam folder, or it's something we delete rather quickly. So it's important that we add information to that subject line that's going to be relevant to what we're offering that customer, maybe including something about your business name. Again, keeping it really specific to your company and making sure that we're not going to wind up in a spam folder is really the goal there. So we'll make any changes we need there. And again, we can have different text between the different emails in that campaign. And then if we do make changes, we'll want to click update and then save any changes here in the AMA letter setup. All right, and then moving along here. So that is going to be that. So now we want to take a look at some of our options that we have for that AMA letter. And what I'm talking about is flag code filtering. So we can specify that we only want to send communications to customers with or without a specific flag code. So let's talk about flag codes in general. I'm going to open up a customer account here. Let's open this one up. And flag codes are, again, they're going to be a customer level filter. It's not a job level or a service level. It's going to be that customer level. So if we apply a flag code filter, we're going to be filtering out that customer entirely, or including that only those customers that meet that criteria. And again, we can add a flag code individually to an account by going to the flag section, clicking edit, and then we can just add our flag code and click on save. So it's just going to quickly add that flag code again to be used as a filter for either including or excluding customers through that AMA communication. So that's how we do it on a single customer. Most of us are going to want to apply those flag codes a little bit more broadly. So I want to show us how to do that from our reports. To do this in Service Assistant 5, we're going to head to our reports by going to our navigation, clicking on reports. And again, with the classic navigation, you should see a bar graph icon along the top, pretty close to the center of that toolbar. Click on reports here. And really from there, it's how we want to identify these customers. So maybe we're going to use a sales report for prepay and really only target those new customers for 2021 if we're renewing and sending out prepays for 2022. Obviously, at that point, we'll really just need to figure out how we want to filter and how we want to apply those flag codes. So we'll just use a customer list in this example. Open that one up. And then once that opens, we'll need to configure our report criteria. Just give that a moment. So there we go. So again, we have our branch selector. We have a lot of different criteria that you can configure to really drill into your data set that you want to send these email prepay letters for. We won't go too far into those configuration options here, but I do encourage you to go ahead and take a look and see what makes sense for your company. And then I do always recommend, before we use something like one of our tools to mass add flag codes or really make a change to customers' accounts, to do a preview of that report and make sure that the criteria we've selected has truly identified the customers that we want to target with something like that flag code add utility. All right, so a quick preview, double check the results that you have. From there, once we've done that, back on our criteria screen, we're going to go to our actions button along the left. So clicking on actions, we'll then see our targets. And one of those targets will be the add or remove customer flag codes. So this allows us to then add a flag code to any customer that is showing up on the preview of that report. So again, if I select add/remove flag codes, then I choose add a flag code, I can then select that flag code. And once I send, it will add that flag code to all customers that appeared based on the criteria in the preview of that report. So a really nice way to apply those flag codes. And if you're going to use that as a means to filter your results for prepay emails, this is a great way to do that. Saves you from having to go to individual accounts and add that flag code like we saw there initially. Cancel that. And depending on the number of results that add a flag code, that might take a few moments. It really does depend on how many results we're going to be applying those flag codes to. All right, and those are really the steps that we want to take through Service Assistant to be prepared for that AMA prepay email campaign. So again, just talking about it quickly, checking the internet available box on any services or special jobs that will be upsells, selecting that or entering the minimum rounds for CAW prepay on programs, configuring our letter text under AMA letter setup, and if we're going to be filtering our AMA prepay emails by flag codes, obviously then adding those flag codes to customers' accounts manually or using one of our report send to actions there. So once that is configured, what we'll need to do next is head over to our customer assistant website or CAW to really get that ready for our AMA prepay email campaign. So we'll go ahead and close out of our Service Assistant there. Head over to our CAW administration. One of the main changes we're going to want to take a look at is defining the prepay season. Right? So we're going to define the prepay season as well as the discounts that will be applied to a service on the customer's account in the CAW when they click that link from the AMA email. So once we've logged in, we'll go ahead and head over to our company parameters. That's going to be our first stop. And then we're going to select that prepay tab. So that's going to be this prepay one here. And we're going to define that prepay season. And this is where that renewal process really becomes important because we're going to want to send these out for jobs in 2022. So those renewed services, not the services in our current season. Right, so we want to define that. And then make sure that we hit the cutoff prepay date. So we'll need to update that to when that prepay has to be made by in order for that customer to qualify for the prepay. Right? And again, a lot of that is going to be determined by really when that season starts for you or when you internally decide how late a customer can prepay for a service and still qualify for that discount. Right? So once we've made our changes there, we can go ahead and save that. So that's going to be step one. Again, just defining that prepay season being the next season, right, that we've renewed our services into, and defining how late a customer can then prepay and receive that discount. All right, up next, we're going to head back to our main menu. And this time we're going to jump into our prepay and promotions area. If you have a prepay promotion from last year, you'll see that you can reuse that existing promotion. Right now, I don't have any here. It would show up in this row if we did have one previously. But for now, we'll go ahead and click on the Add New at the top right of that table. And in the next screen, we're going to select that middle option for our prepay letter emails. And next, if we have multiple branches or multiple companies in a single database, we'll want to define that company here. We'll give it a promotion name. So this might be something as simple as 2022 prepay offer. The system will automatically assign a bundle ID for us. If we're going to define the source for any of these, we can select that source code here. Right. And then we can give this a brief overview. And here what we like to see is either a copy and paste of the promotion name, as again, this will be something the customer is going to see. So they're going to see that overview. So having it be descript like the promotion name, which is an internal view, might make sense. Or if we have some other sort of a naming convention internally for promotion names, we'll want to make this, again, that customer facing version of what that promotion is. All right. And then if for the bundle ID, just go ahead and make a note of that while we're going through this process and creating it. We're going to need that again for that AMA email later on when you are going through that process of setting that up. Display order, again, this is something we can just go ahead and set to 0. And then, so again, that source is going to reference really additional upsells that might be selected by a customer. So that's where that source is going to come from. So it might be worthwhile setting up a source specifically for prepay offer 2022 so that you can select that and any upsells will be recorded and then can be reported out using that as a source. All right, and now down here in the include on letter section, we're going to use the drop down on the offer prepay code or offer prepay to select the discount for all of those services in the prepay, right? So this might be, again, you might have a lawn services or pest services, irrigation, landscape, whatever it happens to be. We'll just go ahead and select that discount. We do have an option here for installment prepay codes. This does require that the customer is prepaying for all of their installments. So not too common of an option there, but it is there if you'd like to select that prepay code for installment plans. And then there is an option for use promotion to override company prepay options. Now, this is generally going to be left blank unless you want any customer who visits the CAW site to qualify for that prepay offer. And generally these prepay promotions, this is going to be something where they're going to use a unique code or they're going to click a unique link from that AMA email. And we only want those that do that to qualify for the prepaid discount. So this would be generally left blank unless you wish to override that. All right, up next we have the Upsells tab. And here we can select as many special jobs as we wish, and these will be shown to the customer on the CAW before they prepay. Again, giving them the option to add additional services and the service shown to the customer will only be ones that they do not currently have. So you can add all specials and not worry it will show something that a customer may already have. And instead of showing that customer pricing, show an upsell price based on price chart or something like that. And again, to do that, we're just going to click the add upsell. And we can select any of those special jobs that we have there, any associated prepaid discount, any specific discounts, or if we want to define that set price, we can add that information and really any upsells that you want to add there. If we add something that we don't want, then obviously we can just go ahead and click on that trash can like I just did to remove that row. All right, next we'll take a look at the filters tab. Right, and here we can set a date range in which the promotion itself will be available. If you're only offering the promotion, let's just say for March 1st, then that's where we'll want to set that information up. So again, this is going to be that specific prepay code or that prepay offer and then you can have different bundles and different offers there in CAW. So that's why we can set these up a little bit separately, depending on how we're going to be sending out communications. All right. One thing to note is that this cannot be set for the same month. So if it will only be available for February, the date should be set for February 1st to March 1st. Below are other options to filter this promotion, such as our size range, or again, any flag codes we can do here. Now, those flag codes we spoke about earlier, those are something we're generally going to set up in the utility when speaking with our support team so that we can filter out those AMA emails. Now, if you did want to filter customers by flag code for that prepay offer in CAW, you could do that here as well. And then, as always, we'll want to save our changes here. And what we can then do is a preview to make sure that that promotion is working. So let's go ahead and save this. We'll see that notification that our parameters have been successfully saved. And then we'll go ahead and click on that preview. Right, we would want to enter a customer. So again, I'm just going to jump back into our Service Assistant 5. Grab an account number really quickly. Number 1 looks good. And then we'll just search for that. It looks like we don't have anything set up there for this customer to prepay for. So let's grab another account and see if we have a 2022. Looks like no, so I'm just going to do a quick renewal here, just so that way we have something available to us. For account number 9. All right, let's see. So we can see that offer code does appear, but this customer, again, doesn't have anything here for us that we've selected to be available that includes that prepaid discount. So that's why we're not getting any results there. So again, just a good way and a good thing to do is just go ahead and preview and make sure that we are seeing that appropriate prepay applied like we would expect to. If we're not, if we're getting something like this, it gives us a good indication that maybe we need to jump back and verify a few things. That might be the renewals process, that might be the prepaid discount code we've selected, maybe needs to be opened up for additional special jobs or programs. So a couple of things that we might need to jump back to Service Assistant to take a look at if we're not seeing any results like we're expecting here. Then from here, the CAW is now all set for that AMA prepay email. So we've already configured Service Assistant. Now we've configured that CAW component, setting up that prepay season, setting up our promotion, our prepay promotion offer. So that is all taken care of and really ready for us to start that process of creating our AMA campaign. So what we want to kind of talk about there is when we're ready to do this, when we've configured the CAW, when we've configured our Service Assistant, when we've flag coded customers as is applicable, what we'd like to see is you reach out to our support team using a Google form, which I'm going to share the link with you right now. So once you have everything configured and you've made your determinations on who we're going to send this information to through that AMA, what we will do is have you guys fill out an AMA prepay emails Google form, which I just shared to everybody here in attendance. And that is going to take you through just the questions we're going to go over with you in that AMA configuration call, right? So you're going to have all of these questions really laid out and identified, and saves you a lot of time once we get into that call to get this set up and get this process rolling to get those AMA communications sent out for your customers. Right? So once you submit that form, that's going to send it off to our support team, and the next step in the process will be to schedule an appointment with a member of the support team. And again, we'll receive that submission, and then you'll be contacted by a member of our support team asking that you choose an available time slot to schedule your appointment. And on the date and time of your appointment, we'll confirm those answers provided in the Google form and then answer any questions that maybe you had while filling out that form. Once you've confirmed any question and any questions have been answered, we will configure your campaign to be sent to your customers based on the provided form details, right? So you're really going to identify all of those details prior to that appointment So that way it's relatively quick, and we're just confirming or answering any questions that you might have around that process. All right, so I just want to touch on really what that AMA email campaign is and some of the options that we have. So really the AMA email campaign is set up for 4 communications. We saw that earlier with the renewal notice 1 through 4. So we won't have any ability to send out more than 4 emails in a specific campaign. Any company that has a multi-branch database will have to send these out to either all branches or only a certain branch. We won't be able to do multiple batches of 1 through 4 for each branch in a multi-branch database as part of that support call. And then also what we can't do is we can't really send different communications based on a flag code configuration for what we call multi-sends of that same renewal notice number. Okay, so just to give you a quick example, I know that one's a little bit tricky to kind of wrap your head around. So if what we can't do is we can't set up renewal notice 1 to send to customers with flag code A, then go back and set up renewal notice 1 to send to customers with a different flag code. So you can see here we're sending renewal notice 1 repeatedly and based on a different set of criteria. So that's actually going to be something that we won't be able to do with you on that support call. Just a few things that we like to touch base on there, just so you understand what we'll be able to do and what we won't. Now, we do have a professional services offering, so you can call and we can help you with more of this information. So if you need assistance setting up that services assistant letter, right, we can help you with that. If you need help configuring these CAW promotions or building templates in the AMA template builder, or making template changes maybe mid-campaign. So we've done renewal notice 1 and 2, and you want to make a change. Well, that would be something through our professional services that we would be assisting you with. If you need to make an alteration to a drip campaign after that initial setup. So again, we kind of touched on it there with the flag codes, but any changes that we need to make to that campaign once the initial setup is completed, that would then have to go through our professional services department and any command center assistance. So if we're not sure, maybe it's something other than the template, maybe we need assistance beyond that with command center, then that would go through that department. And what we'll do is we'll have you go to realgreen.com/tech support and input a request for that assistance, and just referring to that professional services. We'll reach out to you, we'll determine the scope of that project and the assistance that you need, and then that will be priced accordingly. So let's just really quick, I want to take you through and really just put all of this together really quickly, just so you can see that, you know, we've threw a lot of information out there. It can make the process seem a little bit daunting, but I want you to really see how simple it could be if you wanted to go through this process on your own. So again, we'll just start back at Service Assistant. I'm going to head over to my settings. And again, I'm just going to verify my service setup. Search through that. Service setup. What I'm looking for here is just to make sure that any of my upsells are set to internet available. I'm going to head back to my settings again, and I'm going to check my program setup. And I'm going to verify my minimum rounds for CAW Prepay. Save any changes we make there. Again, heading back now to my settings, scrolling down to my AMA letter setup. I can search for that renewal notice, notification 1, making any changes here. Changes to that text, making any changes to my offer codes, running that through a quick update, and then save. My changes have now been saved. So we have that side of things taken care of. What I'm going to do is then jump into my reports. Just going to grab that customer list. Again, in this case, the idea being I'm going to filter those AMA prepay communications by customers with a specific flag code. I would configure my report criteria, preview that report to ensure that I'm identifying the proper customers. Jumping over to my actions, I'm going to select that add or remove flag codes. I'm going to add a flag code, and then we would just add that by clicking send. So now we've identified customers that we want to filter to include. We have our settings all configured in Service Assistant. At that point, we're ready to go with the Service Assistant side. So we'll just jump back into our CAW administration. I'm going to click on company parameters, prepay. I'm going to verify that my prepay season is the next season, in this case 2022, and then any cutoff prepay date I'll define here, and then clicking save for any changes that are made. I'm going to head back to my main menu, selecting prepay and promotions. And we can see here, I mentioned it earlier, if we have other prepay offers, we're going to see that in the list. If not, we're just going to go ahead and click add new. Selecting the prepay letter. We'll give this a promotion name. And this can be different or the same as that promotion name for the brief overview. Display order, we can set that as 0. For any upsells that are part of this promotion, we can set that to a specific source. We'll select our offer prepay as is applicable. Select our upsells to add any upsells. If there's going to be a prepay offer for that upsell, we can select that there. Jump to our filters, set up our promotion date range. So when does this promotion start? When does that promotion end? Right, if we wanted to, we could configure a size range or filter by flag code, but we won't in this case. Make note of that bundle ID. Again, that's going to be something that comes up in that form, and then also something we'll want to verify with you on that call on your scheduled appointment date. And then we'll just give that a save. Right. So again, from there, we are all set and ready to fill out that Google form and submit that so that we can get our appointment set up to then speak with a member of support and get those AMA communications out. So as you can see, relatively straightforward process. A lot of this you might already have set up. So that AMA letter setup, maybe we're using similar text year over year. We don't need to make changes there. But I do recommend just taking a look at it, make sure that we didn't include something last season like prepaying for 2021, right? That's a good example. We might need to update that date if we're going to be specific about the season that they're prepaying for. Or take a look at those different renewal notices and see if we're maybe encouraging customers to pay by indicating that that time is drawing to a close to receive that prepaid discount. Definitely just some good ideas there and really get that set up best for you. All right, and then that is really what we wanted to kind of cover off on, really to prepare and get that ready for that AMA prepay communication. I'm going to go ahead and shift things over to Matthew to see if any questions came in. And of course, feel free to add any questions here as we answer any that came in earlier. So I'll hand that off to Matt there.
All right, thank you, Mike. Thank you for that great layout of exactly what we need to do. Looks like we got a couple of questions here. We want to do both physical and email prepays. Will there be any complications in using both? The answer here would be no. The prepay emails and physical prepays will work well together. I would recommend waiting until maybe the second or third email has gone out. This will allow people to prepay from that email, lowering that cost of that physical letter that you need to send out. Looks like I also might have a follow-up to that, is for the physical letter, how do I get them to the CAW? Right, so we're doing emails, but that physical letter, we need to get them there as well. So on step 4 of the prepay letter setup, we have the page layout section. There's a drop down for the CAW offer code. Looks like Mike is getting there.
I'll jump right in and just kind of take everybody through that process really quickly. We won't spend a lot of time on our criteria, but most of you are familiar with filling out some of this criteria. Again, just kind of navigating to that step Matt was talking about. And what we're looking for is this CAW offer code information. Okay, so if we're going to go ahead, Matt, I'll let you go ahead and take over.
Yeah, so we'll check that box to include that CAW offer code and that bundle ID. So that's the exact same bundle ID that we were setting up there in the CAW admin. And then the URL section there, most people do just maybe put the URL of where their CAW is. I do like to put in like, please go to, put in the URL, and then at the end of it had enter offer code. And at the end of offer code, that offer code that we've seen there in the CAW admin for that specific customer will actually show up. So that's a great place for that. Right. Looks like we have another question of what is the location of the Google form? So that location of the form, Mike did share out in the chat.
Here, go ahead and share that one more time here for us.
There you go. So there's a chat box in the webinar. He has that shared there. Otherwise, we can get that to you. We can reach out to you if you need that specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not seeing that there, or maybe once we don't get that saved, if anybody needs that again, just go ahead and reach out using that realgreen.com/tech support, and we'll get you that form sent over right away so that you can begin this process in planning for those AMA communications.
All right. Looks like I have a question here regarding those AMA templates. Yeah, as Mike had mentioned, that yep, that will be for our professional services. Please contact customer support and enter in that you are regarding that professional services, and we'll contact you to scope out exactly what you're needing done for those templates if you need help there. Looks like I have another question here for scheduled services showing up on the AMA email. So in the AMA letter or in the AMA utility that we have to set up these prepays, you can choose what services to show up on the email itself. By default, they are turned all on, but you do have that option. So when it comes time to actually have that meeting to set up that drip campaign, we'll definitely cover that information there.
And Matt, it looks like we did get another one in there asking, can we set up and send our own AMA prepay emails through that command center?
All right, perfect. Yeah, unfortunately, the command center will not allow you to just set that up yourself. We do have to set that up on our end. So you will need to contact support to get those drips started.
Excellent. And we'll just kind of leave it open here for a few more minutes if anybody has any other questions they want to submit. But I did want to thank everybody for attending today. Really appreciate you taking some time out of everybody's busy day to go through this process to really kind of understand what it will need to get through and what that preparing for AMA prepay email communication looks like. Thank you all very much for attending. And like I said, Matt and I will both stick around for a little bit longer if any other questions come in. And obviously everybody's welcome to stay there. Looks like we did have another question come through. Is there an option to print like statements? So yeah, there is an option to print prepay letters through Service Assistant. So it's, and I'm wondering, are you referring to having Realgreen print your prepay letters? So again, through Service Assistant, it's just a matter of heading over to our letters, prepay letters, navigating through this 4-step wizard, and then generating and sending that or printing those documents that go out. Now, if you're wanting Realgreen systems to print those prepay letters for you, yes, there is an option for that, and that would actually go through our print department. So if you're interested in having those printed by us, just go ahead and put in a request there at realgreen.com/tech support and indicate that you're looking to have us print those physical letters out and send them to the customers for you. All right, great questions, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll stick around here a little bit longer and see if we have any other ones come in. And as a reminder, just those that question panel there on the GoToWebinar screen allows you to submit those to us. And we'll leave things open up for just a few more moments. But if any questions come up, again, if you're sitting through the webinar and we cover off on a topic and maybe you don't think of that question here today, of course, any questions that kind of come up along the way, just reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer those questions or again, guide you to the process of entering that form, explaining to you a little bit differently. Maybe it is a question about flag codes. So we went over a little bit how to add a flag code to an account. We didn't really cover off how to create a new flag code if that's something we want to do. So I'm actually gonna just go ahead and treat that as though it were one of the questions that came in, and we'll talk about that really quickly. So again, when we're doing things like that, we're talking about our settings. So we'll head back into settings. I'm going to then let that load up. And what we're looking for is going to be our flag codes. Scroll down here to our flag code section. And so if we did want to create a specific or unique flag code to filter these AMA prepay communications, then we would want to come into our settings, flag code setup, go through this process. (2022), give it a description. Again, this is really up to you what you want to include here. We want to make sure that it is available, right? If we don't want it to print on any documentation like an invoice or an estimate, we can deselect those options there. And we can add that here. That will add it to the list below. And then we'll just click on save. So then once that CAW sync happens, then we will see that as an option to filter those results. So just a quick way to add that flag code. And it doesn't look like we've had any other questions come in. So I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and say thank you everybody for joining again one more time. Appreciate the time today. And again, if there's any questions, realgreen.com/tech support is going to be your resource to get a hold of us. Definitely encourage anybody that missed the webinar last week for renewals, go ahead and reach out to us there and request Real Green Academy access to that. There is also the knowledge base through Service Assistant, and that can easily be accessed from SA5 by clicking on the question mark here. Or if we don't have Service Assistant open, we can navigate to help.serviceassistant.com. It's going to take us to our knowledge base where we can easily search by keywords. Right? So right here at the top, maybe I want to take a look at a little bit more about that year-end checklist. So if we just start typing year-end, right, we're going to see some results there. I could even just hit enter on my keyboard now and just see all of those results relating to year-end. So here's that checklist walkthrough. Kind of takes you through that process, shows you those screens, talks about your different options a little bit more. We also have a lot of information about renewals, so we can search for renewal. Let's try to pull together that data. So we'll just show you how to access that. So again, help.serviceassistant.com takes you right to that same place that the question mark does. Do this search for renewal. And here's an SA5 mass renewals walkthrough. Take you through that process. And we get into the mass renewal utility, talking about some information there. So a lot of good information around that year-end process that really sets you up for sending out these AMA prepay communications. All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.